Okay, I think we can start now. Good afternoon to evening, everyone. Welcome to discussion and sharing session hosted by ASIC, and today we will discuss something that is not something unusual, maybe, because we will discuss about a book. But this is not just a common book. This is a special book, and this book actually means a lot. Dr. Denny, we will listen to the Professor Dr. Denison, who is the co-editor of the book, and we will learn a lot about the meaning of the book, and so how we can get a benefit from the book. And by the way, the book itself is prepared on printed and ebook version, and the ebook version you can download it to the link that we already provided in the email that you have received regarding this meeting. So please find the link, and then you can download it, the ebook from there. That's official and free version, because the publisher actually has prepared the ebook for all of us. But if you want the printed version, then you can order it also directly from the publisher. Okay, now let's not to wait too long. We will here will be with us Dr. Dato Denison. Hello, Professor Denison. Kalau I usually call Dato Denison. And also we have also a special guest. We have Dr. Eri as a chairwoman of ASEC, the host of this event. And also I saw actually I saw Dr. Benjamin also, but he is not connected to the audio yet. Okay, before we start, before we learn from Dato Denison, I will let Dr. Eri to give us a greeting as from ASEC as the host of this event. Dr. Eri, your place.
Thank you very much, Chandra, for organizing and initiating for this very fruitful talk and discussions. I think we are discussing here. Ladies and gentlemen,
give us a greeting as
I see echo. Okay, that's fine now. Okay, again, I think I greet you all, the 15 participants in this Zoom meeting that we will to discuss about the Encyclopedia of the SSE. At the first, we have to grateful that we have the co-editor to this important SSE reference, as you know, encyclopedia, like the A to Z about the SSE until the gray area, you know, in the SSE itself. In the definitions, there will some debate on the terminology of social economic versus the economic solidarity. Everything you can read in this book. I have already fast reading this book, and it's helped me a lot to understand so many things that sometimes for me like a puzzle. So again, I appreciate for your time, attentions to listen from the co-auditor, Professor Denison Jayasuriya. So I think let's discuss here. I hope that after we are hearing some explanations from the co-editor, we will get more insight, then make us more easier to read this book. So I think sometimes it is good to get reference from the author, so would be like a guidance for us, the reader. So again, congratulations, for the Professor Denison for the publishment of this book. I am really proud as a ASEC organizations. We're really proud that one of our founder is part of the writer and co-editor in this book. Okay, I don't want to go too long because I would like really to hear your sharing about this very important book. Chandra, again, I give it back to you, the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eri, for the greeting. And I think I haven't introduced myself. I'm sorry for that. My name is Chandra. I'm in Indonesia, and precisely I'm in Jogja, near Central Java. If you have ever visited Borobudur or Prambanan, then I'm close to that venue. So ASEC is an organization covering Asia, all Asia, including, so we have some friends here from South Asia, like from India, or maybe some friend from maybe Bangladesh, I'm not sure, but I want to greet all of you from any countries or maybe outside Asia. I'd like to greet you all and wish you a good, prosper, and good health. And we will run this discussion for about 1 hour, but maybe if we will extend, then it's on our decision to agreement to extend it. So let's go to the main course of this session. Is we will hear and we will learn directly from the co-editor of the book Encyclopedia of the SSE. Hello, Dr. Denison.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good here, and nice to see you along. And we wear the same pattern clothes actually. Yeah. So it's also coincidence for us. So, Dr. Denison, and we want to we really want to know what is really this book tell about. Yes, we know it is encyclopedia. It will tell Dr. Eri A to Z of the SSE, but maybe what we want to listen is how the story of behind of the composing or editing this book. I think that will be an interesting story that we want to hear you in person as a co-editor. Dr. Denison, I think the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon or evening to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Eri, for the words of introduction, and to Chandra for hosting this. I also do see the name of our close colleague and founder of ESSEC, Dr. Ben Cunyones, and all those who are here in the Zoom and who might be watching the YouTube. Thank you for joining, and this is a very important publication. I've done some slides. Chandra, if you can, yeah. Okay, this is just the publicity that was circulated by Chandra. Next, please. Now, the background, oops.
Sorry.
Yeah, the background to encyclopedia needs a little introduction on the United Nations Task Force on Social Solidarity Economy. I think both ASEC through REPAS has been actively involved from the very beginning, that the United Nations at one of its meetings, these are the agencies of the United Nations, and I think in Geneva in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Ben was part of that meeting where he presented a paper where they decided to set up this UN Task Force on Social Solidarity Economy to give greater visibility to SSE. 20 UN agencies are part of this. It was originally led by ILO, but others are now taking the chair. But REPAS, as an NGO, international NGO, is part of the observer team and has been there from the beginning, and they have played a key role. So the UN Research Institute, if you can check online, the online platform for SSE Knowledge Hub, where a lot of the publications, even papers we have written are published through the UN. So this is the background. This is the group that has given now global visibility at the UN, as well as the coordination. And they are responsible for getting this encyclopedia done. Next. Yeah. I just thought this might be very obvious to some, but I thought some of us might be wondering what is an encyclopedia as opposed to a dictionary. Encyclopedia is an information bank. It's a collection of information. It has knowledge and information to it. It's a reference book. It concerns with general knowledge. So you could have many volumes of an encyclopedia. That's articles and theme. Very different from a dictionary, which is more one word that gives meaning for a student or a researcher in the usage of different words. It might have more grammatical and structure of language. So the encyclopedia is more a series of articles. It's different from a book because it's more selected and more guided towards explaining the content. And in this case, it's on social solidarity economy. Next, please. So this is the document. There is a hard copy which one could buy from the publisher, and that you have to pay for. But if not, it is an open access title, free to read, download, and share. And this is important because this whole project was funded by the government of Luxembourg. So open access, because I think if not, it will be really costly. And it's quite a huge document of almost I downloaded and printed it. It's over almost 500 pages, A4, that my copy came to. Next, please. Now, many of us know this man, this handsome man based in Geneva at the UN Research Institute for Social Development. In Chen Yi is South Korean. He has been very active in the SSE. He led the team as actually the editor of the book, with others of us who then joined in as were invited by ILO or the UN Task Force, as well as UN Research Institute. And of course, you know some of the names like Peter Hutting. Of course, you know my name there, but others from different parts of the world, different continents. And we all played a role in either writing, reading, reviewing, making comments, and so forth on the publication itself. So it's not the work of one person, although Il Chen and the UN team played quite a major role in editing, proofreading, and so forth, and other names are listed down as well. Next. Now, the encyclopedia itself is a comprehensive reference text or a tool. Reference text or tool. So far, we have not had something like this. We have had Dr. Ben's publication, or ESSEC had put a book or two. Others like Peter Hutting has also written. So there are many individual books, but not a collection of essays and writings. And basically, it explores how social solidarity economy plays a significant role in creating and developing economic activities in an alternative way. And of course, we know the ideological and philosophical arguments between new liberal market-driven economies and the marginalization or the profit orientation or the exploitative nature of this economy. So the SSE movement, which does focus on economic activities, is seeking to create an alternative. And this is partly written in the book that I took out, that it's in contrast to processors, commodification, commercialization, bureaucratization, or corporatization, in which SSE asserts the place of ethics. Dr. Ben calls this values, social well-being, democratic decision-making in economic activities and governance. So it's not just the individual investor and the profiter in the marketplace, but it's a much more an accountable system. It's also identifying, analyzing issues and topics associated with SSE, broadens the knowledge base to diverse actors of SSE, including practitioners, activists, academicians, policymakers. Next. Now, the encyclopedia itself is divided into 4 parts. There is a total of 57 articles, and there are over 17 authors. So you can basically download it, as Chandra said. Maybe Chandra can just give the link on the chat box, but it was in the poster and the email that was circulated to everyone. So it's an important component to it. And it's amazing that's the cross-section of 70 authors. Of course, the number of Asians might be small, or from Africa or Latin America, but as a first attempt, I think we have a cross-section of authors from the different continents and different backgrounds. Now, SSE as a visible alternative approach to development, rebalancing economic, social, environmental, and democratic objectives. This comes out strongly in the book. An alternative approach to promoting well-being, social justice, economic, and social development. Encyclopedia provides lessons and findings on the positive contributions of SSE. So they have tried to keep the topics more universal rather than context-specific. So that could be one of the reasons why not many continental writers were included, because many of us are writing from a continent perspective. But here they were looking at broader contributions and lessons. As a tool for education and communication, it provides a global perspective and definitely drawing from ground experiences, which is context specific, but seeking to provide a much wider global perspective to it. So I did say there are 4 main parts, and next onwards we look at these 4 main parts, and I will highlight 1 or 2 articles that emerge from them. Next. Now, the first part is on histories, concepts, and theories. There are over 13 articles here. You know, there are many interesting, important articles, and you might choose another set of it. I took articles where either I was interested because like social movement, or I knew the author, like Yvonne. Yvonne from Canada is part of REPAS and well known in this UN task force movement. He and Hamish Jenkins write on this activism and social movements. and they see SSE as a social movement aiming to challenge dominant neoliberal economic models. So they set the article by saying that social movements are largely emerging as protest movements to ones with political activism. But in the SSE, because of the solidarity-based forms, the social movements were leading on to economic activities as alternative economic models. This I've heard from many of our ASEC talks, that sometimes social movements are only protesting, but in the SSE movement, while there might be protest and objection, there is an attempt to find an alternative solution by mobilizing people's power to reorganize themselves, pool their resources, and find a solution rather than just protest. So the protest leads on into alternative solidarity initiatives to resolve the issues and address problems on the ground. So they are not waiting for handouts or for government to do, but they move on. So in these social movements, there is a reference there on both repass and asset, right in the first article. So it's quite important that asset is also referred to in the first article. Now, Peter Hutting, many of us have met him. He was in the UN Research Institute for Social Development, a very well-known scholar, academic, who has written much on SSE. And he writes about contemporary understanding, and he takes this ecological economics and describes this as redefining sustainable development and taking economy, environment, and society, the three areas into account in measuring progress in a country or a nation. And this article highlights the importance of well-being, such as equality, human potential, and life satisfaction. So he highlights that SSE shifting economic system, market-based capitalist model, dependent on endless growth and profits, towards one that puts people and planet at its core. So there are also concrete examples. There are some measurement of indicators in the papers that come out, but more needs to be done to establish these as fundamental shift in the way wealth is measured or well-being is measured in this way. Next. Now, part 2 is all about actors and organizations. There are about 9 articles. When I looked at the articles, you can categorize them into 2 forms. Some are on the movement, such as associations, community-based organizations, cooperatives and individuals, NGOs and foundations, social enterprise and self-help group. So there is a kind of a description to document the extensive development of the movements on the ground in a collective way, in different structure and forms that is described, as well as the articles on actors, then look at those who are championing areas of marginalized groups, African American, LGBT, inclusion, or migrants and refugees, youth and women who might feel excluded from mainstream due to markets and so forth. Next. So the next set of articles, there are about 18 articles here, that's linkage to development. Many of us know Judith, who is also with REPAS, and her article is on food and agriculture sector, which is a very important component, the importance of community-supported agriculture. Many asset partners both in India, China, Philippines, Indonesia, are very much to community-supported agriculture. So she writes about the struggles, the challenges for land, for seeds, for water, for food sovereignty and security. She interlinks production, distribution, and consumption, and says that it cannot be disassociated. She looks at areas of social inclusion and fair income of farmers, and there is solidarity between producers and consumers, bypassing the middleman and so forth, so that there are fairer distribution of wealth rather than siphoning of wealth and prosperity. The article that I wrote, there were opportunities to do more articles, but at that time I could only complete one, which is part of the book, and that's on a theme that I've always been highlighting, and even now I'm working on it. Incheon and I actually put together sustainable development. We looked at the MDGs to SDGs, the 5 Ps of SDGs, which is people, planet, profit, partnership, peace, and so forth, to the 5 principles of SSE, which is the 3 bottom line, triple bottom line plus values and governance. So there is an overlapping which I highlight, and SSE organizations as a vehicle for localizing SDGs at the local community level, so that SSE organizations are actually ready to implement the SDGs and the 17 goals and so forth in the context, because they are organized collectives, and they are into economic activity as well as environmental and people organizing. And in the article, I do highlight 2 examples of grassroots communities. One is Asapa in South India, which is a huge NGO that's organized alternative economy at the grassroots. And their members were winning in local village elections and in local government elections because they were such a strong force at the ground level. And also the Islamic pawn shops. So there are pawn shops that are commercially run where a poor person could keep something as a surety or a collateral like a watch or gold. The Islamic one is only looking at gold, and then they charge a service or administrative charge. And that system seems fairer to the more commercial one, where people tend to lose their properties or their jewelry or their wealth. So it's something community owned by religious institutions or other organizations affiliated to the religion of Islam, which provides an alternative model to market-driven forces that seem fairer and more accessible to the poor person at the ground. So those were my article and thoughts that I expressed in that very much. And so that's part of the third part, linkage to development and the 18 articles. And the final part, part 4, next, is about enabling environments and governance, and they put 14 articles. So the first article is on participation, governance, collective action, and democracy. And SSE organizations are committed to equity, citizens' political empowerment, sense of belonging, plurality of economic principles, and democratic management. So democratic management seems to be something that is significant in the SSE movement, where citizens' participation and the collective action and holding to account is seen as a critical and important aspect. The other article under this that I'm looking at is Peter Hutting's article on public policy, because we are looking at how SSE impacts ordinary people's lives, reorganizes, generates income, improves quality of life. But is SSE impacting public policy? So there is a shift where government is beginning to recognize SSE from conventional business and public sector activities. The impact by measuring it and mapping it is looking beyond GDP and employment to see in the SSE movement how much contribution is SSE movement giving to GDP or providing employment on the ground and the generation of income so that it's then seen as a third force or a significant contributor at the bottom of the well. So these are some points that were highlighted, and the development and national strategies and institutionalizing SSE in public policy. A good example is South Korea and the legislation for social enterprise, which becomes an enabling environment and state allocated funding to support it. So there is an impact, not just in the lives or in the model, but there is an impact on public policy and the way government is organizing itself and putting things in that context. So I come to the last slide, and you can read all the articles, 57 of the articles in different parts. And these are my concluding thoughts, and I felt when this book came out, when I raised with Chandra and Dr. Harry, it's always helpful when you got such a thick document and people are not in the habit of reading, that it's important for us to now know we have a useful toolkit. We might have had books and materials in the academic circles, but this as a reference book for research and teaching with a credible publisher with the UN Task Force endorsement, then gives a facelift and possibly influences academic circles as well as a reference book. Because previously we had our own articles, our own thoughts. So constantly people felt we didn't have a reference book that we can quote or see as a landmark publication to influence that process. So this book provides that because it seeks to provide a global understanding, terminologies, concepts. It's a bit rigorous. People, the team of writers, as I said, there are over 70 writers, all spend time with very small honorarium to get the articles out. So we have a single volume encyclopedia at this point. Now, my third point is a future possibility, and people like Ben or Dr. Harry or others in ASEC might want to consider some kind of SSE in Asia. We did this before many years ago, but to put on our case studies, best practices, whether you want to call it an Asian encyclopedia on SSE, but it's to document case studies, best practices, and innovation, so as to influence the governments in our countries so that they would give greater attention. I think Philippines has, Indonesia has, Thailand has, Malaysia has a shift towards social enterprise development. And then, of course, Korea and all, and community-supported agriculture is a very big initiative in China and so forth. So those are my thoughts, Chandra and Dr. Harry, Dr. Ben. If there are questions or thoughts, you can ask them. I'm not an expert on all the topics there, but I'm sure others of us might have reflections because all of us have written and tried to document it I remember much of the earlier publications are all Dr. Ben Cugnon's publications that we were all influenced in the thought process and thinking. But now this becomes a resource material for lecturers, trainers, teachers, practitioners, that we can show it, give copies, and because it's freely available, except for the hard copy that you want to buy, then I think it's a significant contribution to SSE around the world. And we can take pride that we are part of these movements through REPAS and through others of us who have been active in the global scene. So thank you very much. And Chandra, back to you. If there are questions and thoughts people could ask, or if it's already in the chat, I can have a look.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Denison. And I think Dr. Denison deserves applause from us. Maybe you can give your applause through your reaction or chat. And I'm interested on the third conclusion, and maybe I can take it as an invitation for all of us to be a contributor to create the Encyclopedia of SSE, the ASEAN version. I think I can consider it like that. Yeah. So it's a challenge for us, and it's an opportunity and challenge for all of us. So everyone, I invite you, all of you, to give a reaction or comment or talk or a question to Dr. Denison regarding this Encyclopedia of SSE. But I'd like to announce first that we will do a photo group. We will do the photo group after the next session, which is I will invite Dr. Benjamin Quinones from Philippines. Hello, Dr. Ben. Okay, you're here with us, and good to have you with us now. And
yes, thank you.
I'd like to invite you to give your any reaction or comment to the Encyclopedia of the SSE, as Dr. Denison explained to us recently. Please, Dr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Chandra, and thank you, Dato Denison, for this very wonderful presentation. Actually, you know, when we say encyclopedia, it's really a compendium or a compilation of several works, documents on SSE on different perspectives, like because SSE is both theory and practice. It is about local practice as well as global. It concerns about policy as well as the actors or stakeholders or the entities. And when you conduct a forum, sometimes, you know, you cannot cover all these topics, all these themes. So an encyclopedia is very important, especially for somebody who likes to really understand, you know, everything. So it is very useful for somebody who is trying, you know, to contextualize, for example, the experience of SSE in one country, and trying, you know, to understand how all these ideas, you know, and the actors are interrelated, and how does this system try, you know, to wiggle itself or develop itself within the wombs of the mainstream economy. So really, this is a good opportunity for those who are really interested in understanding SSE to pour into the contents of the encyclopedia. Now, there are three things that I see as very crucial, you know, insofar as the use of this encyclopedia is concerned. Because what we have today is very, how do you call this, just, I brief about the contents of the encyclopedia. But I was wondering, the first thing is, how can we make use of the contents of this encyclopedia for purposes of educating, or making our constituents in Asia more aware of the um, information gathered in this encyclopedia. That's one thing, because there's a lot. I suppose there's a lot of information there and different perspective. So there's one question I'd like to throw. And the second is the challenge that Dr. Denison posed of creating encyclopedia for Asia. Yeah, because we have a lot of studies already, presentations and information. So again, this is a challenge because we have very meager, ASIC has a very meager financial resource. How do we mobilize the resource? Can UNSCAP, can we go to UNSCAP and propose this? And the third aspect is how do we make use of this initiative of the encyclopedia, enrich, our own forum in Asia, yeah, because the forum that we are organizing is a means, of extending our reach to different organizations, actors, stakeholders, and also hopefully policymakers. And because of the richness of the information gathered in the encyclopedia, it is relevant if we could feature this, and hopefully maybe we can invite, those writers, the editors and the writers involved in putting together this encyclopedia. So these are the three major things that I wanted to put into this discussion. Number one is, the opportunity of making use of this encyclopedia for purposes of making this available to our constituents, for them, to really pour themselves into understanding and reading the information. So I guess this is something that probably Chandra can do, disseminating, the contents of the encyclopedia. The second is about, the challenge posed by Dr. Denison of whether we can create our own encyclopedia in Asia, because this is quite important, because you see the context of SSE in the north is very different in the developing countries like our countries, basically because the stakeholders or actors of SSE in the north are well educated, they're well connected, they know how to organize an economy. But most of the stakeholders in the south are different because they are poor. Many of them belong to the informal economy. They have no, they are not capable of self-organizing themselves, and they have to be, partners with people in the academy that can bring, the information and translate information for their use. Yeah? And then lastly, of course, the opportunity of making use of this information to make our forum robust, and maybe we can invite, with the opportunity or the challenge of inviting the editors, the writers of this encyclopedia to participate in our forum. So these three things, Sandra, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. And I think I hear an idea about to college student in economy or else. Maybe you can make a study, comparison study of the SSE actor, Europa to Asia, right? So because they are so different, so it can be an interesting study in the college. So I give to Dr. Denison to make a comment on Dr. Ben.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. Nice to meet you after a long while. We COVID, post-COVID, we not having opportunity, but thank you for your comments. I think in the first area, I think ESSEC could do more. I think ESSEC did. I think ESSEC might be the first in the REPES network to organize a webinar or a discussion on this encyclopedia. That itself is good. But I think we need, and I agree with Ben, using this opportunity to get more people exposed to the content, the articles, because not all the articles are easy to read. 57 articles, they are condensed because there was a word count to the articles, but it's well referenced and well reviewed publication. So possibly to make use in terms that ESSEC could, sort of have posters to highlight it or make it known to the schools that are currently linked with us, either in the Philippines or in Malaysia or in India, where there are teaching or training programs related to it in a more manageable content level. Because I would think not everybody will download and save it and read it or try and get a hard copy, because the printed hard copy is quite expensive, but the articles itself is, I think, available. So that, I think, through publicity and highlight, I think ESSEC could make that known, and our partners can make it known to others as well. Because I think today, while we had over 24 people participating, it's still not the depth and breadth of the ESSEC movement. The second one, I think, Ben, with your input, with people from UP and others, if we could get some funding, whether we call it an encyclopedia or compiling together of an updated version, maybe that might be necessary now. I remember your own publications in the past. We have compiled our conference gatherings together. We did a lot of YouTube recording and presentations, which are equally valid. But I think somebody needs to take the lead, whether someone within ESSEC or from little funds that ESSEC has to set aside it as a project, or as what Ben said, to approach another agency in Asia or in a collaborative way to get done. Then I think the Asian models will come out. While we have had some conferences with the UN Research Institute that hosted in South Korea, and all, a few case studies were picked up at that time, or in Geneva presentation. Now, on the third, I think Chandra should continue to organize this. The book is divided into 4 parts. You can do it like a training or like a course, because there are 57 articles, and then people can read up and we can have a tutorial or discussions on it. And as Ben suggested, I'm sure most of the speakers will be willing to come online depending on the time and their availability. I'm sure the editors, who also have each written an article or 2, will be happy to come online. and that we can go, there are 57 articles, but you could take a thematic approach, then it is 4, and then look at the content or area, or people can analyze it. I think it's helping people to read now. I mean, I myself found it helpful in preparing the set of slides to go through the book seriously, although in the editing process, we looked in bits and pieces and we were looking at it. But now that it's one compilation of 57 articles over 500 pages and over 70 over authors, that's a lot of resource persons. And we need to give visibility to it and help people to read it. And I think Ben's suggestion of us meeting in a disciplined way is helpful, because many people will skip through it, or if they only need it, they would look at it. So those are some of my feedback, Dr. Ben. I would agree with you. We need to use this opportunity as a base for people to talk and be more actively involved in the learning. I remember you always telling us we are on a learning journey. And so we have a new textbook, which becomes a sort of, a compilation of huge material which have been edited and put together, and it will be very helpful for us to do it. Chandra, those are my immediate comments. If there were other thoughts from people.
Yes, Vika, I will invite Dr. Eri, who has raised her hand. Please, Dr. Eri.
Thank you, Denison. Your encyclopedia really come in the right time, as I have to prepare the lecture for the students for the master and doctoral degree from Parahyangan University, Catholic University in Bandung. So then your encyclopedia, I read at least the part 1 here. For me to explain what is actually SSE. Yeah. As you know, that very interesting for me. To my opinion, this is quite this encyclopedia. How this is accomplished, but not easy to understand for the beginners who might be the first time understanding the SSE, try to understand the SSE. At the first, we have to know that as an alternative economic system, this is mostly not common in the country. And all the students and the people are occupied the thinking with the mainstream economy. So, therefore, so this is not, but however, this encyclopedia has helped me at least, because I have already started very curious, I think, since the 2014, to understand what is actually the SSE. And this book has helped me to bring all the puzzle. So at least I have always download or try to save all the document materials about the SSE, produced by ILO, by somewhere. So everything like I found in the internet, I try to save it, but it's scattered everyone. Then finally, I found everything I can have it in this encyclopedia. So that means I agree with, as you told, this book, this encyclopedia could help us at the first to read, particularly for the scholar or for people who already understand basically what is actually the alternative economic paradigm of SSE. But however, as well, to help us, the practitioners, to share with the widened audience Yeah, like it happens to me as well. It's very useful for me to prepare the learning material for the students in the Parahyangan University. But what the very interesting, because I heard the dichotomy, or the what you call it, the dichotomy between the terminology of the social economy that mostly common in Europe, and then the social solidarity, which is mostly common in the Latin America and in America, with all those history. So it's very interesting to understand why this difference is coming. Yeah, it's make me clear where that is related to the history. But as it comes to the Asia, yeah, I read in that book, yeah, in the part 1, Peter Atting told that in Asia, the SSE mostly in the directions of the social economy rather than in the social solidarity, economic solidarity. This is the Peter Atting said. At the first, it surprised me, because at the first, how come he into that directions? But at least the argument that therefore that make me more clear. Therefore, the term of the SSE in the Asia is more common with the social enterprise rather than the social solidarity or economic solidarity. So that make me clear. Oh, that is the, with all this kind of history and background. So I just want to share, because I have already used the part of this this book for my preparations. But one that I miss, yeah, Denison, but I'm agreed that this book become like this book could be like a source for more discussions, yeah, about in the history, actually about the history of the civil society. Most history are regarding the history of the movement, because in Asia, the definitions of the civil society could be different with what the civil society in the Western area, in USA, in Canada, and other part. So every country has a certain history on the maturity of the civil society. So, to my opinion, the standpoint of the civil society, the maturity of the civil society in this country will influence as well the maturity of the SSE in that country. So again, this book make me like awaken more. Okay, there is more behind of this book. Yeah, A to Z is not enough, but it at least it gives us like more points to discussions to elaborate in our own, in the country, and so on. This is my sharing. You can comment, or we can continue, Chandra, to the next who want to respond to the all Denison presentations. But however, I think this book is very useful. I already read it and I testimony in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Can I
Eric.
react to that, Chandra?
Yes, please, Dr. Ben.
This convinces me more, that we need an encyclopedia for Asia, because there is a misunderstanding of those in Europe that our concept of SSE is only focused on social economy. Yeah, I think the reference is made on social enterprise and also the experience of South Korea. But you see, the situation in developing countries or less developed countries is that a big part of our economy is in the informal sector. And when you say informal sector, people there, the workers in formal economy, necessarily don't have access to social protection. And the big part of social solidarity economy is, the access to not only to resources like finance, but social safety nets, yeah, education, housing, universal health care, and so forth and so on. Secondly, a big part, of our population are not educated, yeah, low skills compared to the workers in the north, yeah. So in fact, one of the major organization in Europe looks at social society economy in developed countries as something that tries to accommodate within the neoliberal market economy. Yeah. So the perspective is really, something quite different, because in the South, there is no way for people in the informal economy to be accommodated in the formal economy, because in the first place, they are already isolated. Yeah, they are not included in the formal economy, in the mainstream economy. Whereas in developed countries, many of the stakeholders of SSE, they were, they were dropped from the mainstream economy. They lost their jobs from the mainstream economy, and so the alternative is to create this economy, but a big portion of those organizations in Europe are trying, to get accommodation within the mainstream economy. So, in other words, we have to correct the perspective of Peter Otting, that the perspective of SSE in Asia is basically accommodative, meaning to say we're just trying to get this economy accommodated in the mainstream economy. That is not possible. Yeah. That is not possible because already a big portion of the SSE stakeholders are sidelined. They have no access. They have no connection to the formal economy. In fact, this is a big agenda of ILO, the transition from the informal to formal economy. Yeah. So in fact, I question that that direction, because the transition should be from informal economy to SSE. Not to the mainstream economy, But the thing is, I think really I'm more convinced that the suggestion of Dr. Denison to have an Asia, version of the encyclopedia is quite important, because we have so many experiences here that are, developed outside of the mainstream economy, and it gives autonomy to the people when they develop social solidarity economy. And among the features of this, that they're autonomous, they're independent, and so we really need to highlight this to correct the impression that because the mainstream policy initiative in several countries where social enterprise law has been promulgated is focusing on social enterprise. Yeah, but that is not the representation of the social solidarity economy in Asia. So this is just one thing that I'd like to emphasize, that really we need to bring together the case studies that we have been undertaking, and come up the perspective indicating that we have a concept of SSE that is not only confined to social enterprise. Yeah? It's not only confined to registering SSE entities, with the formal sector, but really creating an alternative economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Chandra, I can make a quick comment.
Yes, please.
I think Dr. Eri has raised some important points, and Dr. Ben, likewise. I think it's an ongoing discussion that we have had, and it's refreshing to be refreshed of the arguments once again. Now, I think the document of the encyclopedia and the publication and the writers actually gives sort of intellectual legitimacy, not just visibility that the UN task force was giving, but now you got like a textbook toolkit as a reference point. Earlier were just individual articles and books and so forth. So this is an important academic process through its content development as well as the academic rigor it went through. I think many of us did highlight that the number of articles or writers don't sufficiently reflect SSE as a global movement. But I think the writers and others felt there is a way of presenting a global picture. But I think Ben is right that any global picture has a context. And if you just take the South Korean model, then you would say all of Asia is like that. Actually, it's not. Because within Asia, there are so many faces and experiences to the process. So while this is important and it has laid the groundwork and so forth, it is not the end of the story. This is not the Bible or the text that is unquestionable text. I think it's a contribution. It was hard work of Incheon and others and the global movement. I think on the Essex side, we have a lot of materials like Ben initiated because we thought it's easier for people to write case studies, but from case studies to draw out your theory and your policy and the ideology that you are operating in. So I think a bit more of our own documentation might be helpful under the same rigor. For that, you need academicians and editors and a team working over time and institution that would back it to give this kind of the publisher who backed the project and Luxembourg government funding it. But I don't think any one of the writers or the editors or the UN would say this is the end story of SSE in the world. I think they would acknowledge that there isn't enough from Latin American perspective or African or Asian perspective, and that we can study this in greater detail, like what Dr. Harry has picked up, and then see where there are weaknesses in the thought, and then have SSE Asian perspective, both theory, policy, practice that we can put together. ESSEC does have some money because we never met for over 3 years now. We could utilize some of that, like the book project or commission people to write. And maybe we need another meeting to think through it with Ben and so forth, and then work something out. I'm sure there are other publishers and all who will welcome our input. But what this has done is it has given some academic boost to SSE as a reference point, so that a lecturer like Harry giving a talk or what can now tell students in a bachelor's program or an MBA program, look, there is an alternate source, and all the articles have at least 10 over references, which then is a whole collection of over 500 references that are there. So it is a useful tool for people to study and so forth. So maybe ESSEC can help, because the problem with us in Asia is we talk a lot and read little and write little. I mean, I think all of us, we talk a lot, we write little, and we read little. So maybe like what Ben introduced before, you remember the learning group, the learning group. So get everybody to read one article and come and tell us what they feel about this article. There are 57 articles. So if each one of us took 2 articles, you only need about 20 people in the group. And then we meet from time to time in Zoom, it's free, and discuss the article and sharpen our thinking, sharpen the understanding of the article, sharpen from, so it is a commitment together to read an encyclopedia in a learning journey together. So if you say everybody who read the 57 article, then Dr. Ellie says, we give you a flight to go to Kuala Lumpur or to go to Manila or to go to Jakarta for a weekend together in SSE. But you must read 57 articles. I think it's something to encourage us and then to see if that's possible. Sorry, I took more time than anyone else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Denison. And I think we have reached our end of our session, but I will give last opportunity for anyone else to give a response. If no other response, then I think we can close.
Chandra, you should ask anybody in Malaysia got a question or not. Ramai orang sini, tapi tak boleh nampak. All hiding their face.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I forgot that I have invited you to do a photo group. So let's prepare yourself and turn on your camera and while waiting the others to open their camera before we do the photo group. And I think that it is implied by Dr. Denison and also Dr. Ben that this encyclopedia is not the final of the award of the SSE.
Chandra, yes. Just 1 minute. I think it's a long time since we saw Sunil and Ganesh.
Yes,
yeah,
I greeted them earlier. They're from India.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
sorry,
I invite everyone to turn on your camera before we will do the photo group. And yes, this is we prepare this session to discussing about the encyclopedia. This one is the first of the series. So how many we will deliver to all of you? We will still preparing it. So just wait the information from us. You can monitor us from the Facebook and also on YouTube, and you can rewatch this session on YouTube. Okay, I have since some more faces here. I will do a photo group. Okay, while waiting for other else, yes, please turn on your camera. I will take the first shot. Okay, I think it's a good photo group, and can I have one more photo with your smile, with your big smile, please? Okay. Yes, Dr. Eri. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for this evening, and maybe it's afternoon still there in India, and it's a very fruitful discussion from a fruitful a book, and this is a landmark actually for us, for all of us, for the SSE and for the scholar also, because now we have something legitimate to refer about SSE. Because I remember when I first known about SSE about maybe 5 years ago, I struggled to get a reference about SSE. how do I learn more about SSE? Because the SSE, they are on the founder of the ASEC in Dr. Denisan and Dr. Benjamin, and also Pak Bambang in Indonesia, the founder of ASEC. And I learned by doing, by joining the ASEC. And now we have the book. It's a very useful, and we hope in ASEC, we hope this will not only just a refer to study, but also to strengthen the movement of the social solidarity economy from the advocacy to the education to the grassroots level. I will, we have reached end of the session. I will, again, I thank you for all of you for coming and joining, and we will still welcome to all of your response through our email or our social media. You can contact us anytime. Thank you for everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Goodbye, everyone.